This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This virus is not going anywhere, so it's a matter of learning how to live with it until a point at which a vaccine is available or certainly better treatments are available. So that's the foundation on which all of this reopening has to be predicated.
Dr. Jen Ashton, what do you mean? We got to live with it. I thought we had to hide from it. What about, aren't we? Look, nobody knows exactly what to expect. What I know is we can't do this. We can't do this forever. And I don't know how much longer we can do it. People are pushing back. People are upset. People are getting frustrated. Understandable. Look at unemployment. Look at the new numbers this week. We're over 30 million in about 6 weeks. Every top economist, investor, hedge fund person, every Wall Street muckety-muck all says the same thing. We're headed for a Great Depression-like situation with no end in sight. So what do? How do we live? We can stay inside when things get ugly, or we can learn to live with it.
I worry that the past 2 months of quarantine have given people the idea that the way for humans to win our million-year war with microbes is to avoid them completely. And I'm here to tell you, you can't. The key to beating COVID isn't dining through glass or never going to a concert or a ball game again. It's your immune system. You hear people say COVID-19 is a new virus, so the immune system doesn't know how to handle it. Bullshit. Of course it does. That's why the vast majority of people have had it, either recovered or didn't even know they had it.
There's something to that, something I've been saying. Sweden's taken this on, and the reality is while the numbers don't look amazing compared to their European counterparts, the reality is they're heading closer and closer towards what they hope will be herd immunity. Learning to live, they've said all along, we're going to have to learn to live with it. They didn't close down the businesses or the elementary schools. There was no stay at home, and there wasn't a disaster either. Even though their numbers are bigger, their whole time they have said over and over again, at the end of this all, we'll look around and we bet everybody else's numbers look similar to ours. The difference was we won't have thrown ourselves into economic and financial ruin to get there. You'll have wave after wave after wave, and we'll have this first wave. They've learned from it as well. Other countries are starting to look around and say, well, maybe we should be doing this. Hiding is not the problem. It's not. Well, Chad, it's not really hiding. It's doing what's best. I get that. The problem is we have 50 billion people telling us something that we should and shouldn't do. We get our hopes up. We get our hopes down. We have people that are all pulling in different directions. We don't know what we should or shouldn't do. You take one study that's a real study, and then you take another study that's also a real study, and you put them together and they go against each other. You should wear mask. You shouldn't wear mask. You should wear gloves. You shouldn't wear gloves. Outside is the real world. We got to deal with it. And at some point in time, probably in a much closer future, because I have so many friends that believe we should shelter in place as long as we need to. But once we return to society, whenever that is, there shouldn't be a going back.
There are people with immune systems that can't do the job, and we should make it a priority to protect those people. But compulsively washing, being scared of your own hands, that can't become the new normal. I see there's a hot new item for sale online, disinfecting shoe mats, because COVID can get on your feet. Yes, it can get everywhere. Microbes are ubiquitous. You can keep discovering new places to scare people into buying protection for, but we're solving the problem from the wrong end.
Yeah. Insane. I understand. People out there making a buck. Can't get everywhere. And there are people that we need to make sure that we protect. You go and look at these numbers, as awful as they are. Almost 20% are nursing homes. Captive groups. Sounds horrible to say that. Confined in an area, aren't going anywhere, already usually with one or two underlying health conditions, with compromised immune systems. Prisons. Manufacturing. Places where you are close to one another. That's why places like New York have suffered tremendously. Very tight packed spaces where people are shoulder to shoulder in and out of places like elevators and mass transit. But we have to learn to figure out how we live with this. At some point in time, as awful as it sounds, we're going to have to return to some sort of normal where we realize that everything we do in life is we take a chance. I work with exotic animals, mostly reptiles. You know what reptiles do? They're terrified of you. Big, giant, huge lizards and snakes, even things as poisonous as cobras and mambas and inland taipan snakes that could kill you in a second. They're terrified of you. They learn to live with you. But everything they do is based on fear. Everything they do is based on fear. No matter how big something is, they believe you are going to kill it and eat it. You have to build up trust, but you also have to build up some sort of rapport with something. You have to live with it, and it lives with you before they start to have a give and take. It's the same thing with this. We have to go out there, and at some point in time, we're going to have to accept the fact that this thing isn't going anywhere. Not anytime soon. And we hope and pray. And I have tremendous belief that we're going to find not just remdesivir, but a few other therapeutics that will help us mitigate the losses, not just of people health-wise, but also the damages done to society. And at the same time, I believe we will find something that will be close enough to a vaccine similar to a flu shot where we may have to get it. But it's an adapt. We need to adapt. We need to adapt. Because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where maybe once every year for 2 months, plus, we may shudder. Can't have that.
We can't sanitize the universe. We've all read the articles. Your sink has 500,000 bacteria per square inch. Your toothbrush has feces on it. E. coli has been found in makeup, carpets, bedding, the remote, cutting boards. The average pillow has 350,000 bacteria colonies. Your phone has 10 times the bacteria of your toilet, which your dog drinks out of and then licks you. And yet you're still alive. Because your immune system said, we got this.
At the end of the day, the most complex, battle-hardened and tested thing that the average person who doesn't have underlying health conditions or a compromised immune system, whether they're fighting another disease, and we're using medicine on them that has weakened it, or something that you have because you've got something, is our bodies. And we must learn to adapt. And if we don't learn to adapt, we're going to have issues. Issues that financially have already been devastating. And I have no idea how much worse it's going to get. Every economist I've talked to have all said the same thing. For every month we're locked down, you can usually tack on a year to get back to where we were. Some places have been locked down 2.5, 3 months, really. But on lockdown for 2 months, some places it's been 6 weeks. What I do know is as we go through May, we're looking at 3. You're looking at 36 months to get back to where we were. And some industries are absolutely destroyed. We will change the way we look at going to certain things. Baseball games, football games, the movies, even out to eat. Everywhere you go now, most people, because of their psyche, looks down and they think that the thing that they're going to touch could be the thing that kills them. That's not good. It's also not true. It's not. We will adapt. We will learn. We will get better. for this because there will be something else. Could be 5 months, could be 5 years, could be 50 years that comes out of nowhere that we have to pay close attention to. That will happen because it's nature, right? Nature. Nature is deadly. Nature is evil. Producer Phil, remind everybody again what will happen with nature.
Nature will mess you up.
Mess you up in a major way. It's nature. Nature's just doing what nature does. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. People wanted to get out over the weekend. People did. People are starting to feel, well, they're starting to be pissed off. They want to get out there and live their lives. Of course, Michigan. They've had the most protests because Gretchen Whitmer, their governor, has come down harder on that state as far as what they can and can't do than any other state.
Some of the outrageousness of what happened at our Capitol this week depicted some of the worst racism and awful parts of our history in this country. You know, the Confederate flags and nooses, the swastikas, the, behavior that you've seen in all of the clips is not representative of who we are in Michigan. We're in a global pandemic. This isn't something we just negotiate ourselves out of, and it's a political matter. This is a public health crisis that has taken the lives of almost 70,000 Americans.
Yeah, that has. It absolutely has. It's taken too many lives, as has the flu and many other things that take lives. It's awful. It's horrible. We need to listen to the experts. But we also need to live our lives. And it's not just so much about staying in. I mean, you're asking people to do things that are insane at times where you can't travel outdoors or taking a run is prohibited. It's just at some point in time, people have a breaking point. I've said that. And that breaking point will come sooner rather than later. I want to see these states as we get through this, the warmer weather starts to arrive across the country. Here in Phoenix, we've already well over 100 degrees. But as it starts to get into that third month, that 90 days, that cabin fever is growing tremendously. And once you start to allow people to get back out there and you relax some of these, what does that look like when you try to put the genie back in the bottle with the second wave? Because there will be a second wave. I don't even know if it's a second wave. It's just a spike. How do you tell people, nope, sorry, it was too early, we got to go back in? I don't know if you can. And I think the second time you try to do it, it's going to get uglier than this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. It is called Car Shield. What does it do? It, being Car Shield, protects you when it comes to covered repairs. They have affordable protection plans that can save you thousands, including modern cars with GPS, electronics, and so much more, as well as cars a little bit older, right? Like 10 years old. I got a car that's about 10 years old. And I got a newer car as well. One has electronics and all the gadgets and wibbly waps, and the other one doesn't. I worry about different things on each one of these vehicles. That's why I have Car Shield. With Car Shield, I get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while my car's in the shop. And the shop is the shop that I choose. They get them paid directly. And that is great. I just pay a small deductible and away I go. All you have to do is call 800-CAR-6000. Explain to them exactly what you're looking for. Use this code Benson. That'll save you 10%. But when you call them, say, look, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Their plans start as low as $99 a month. 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson, save 10%. Or carshield.com, carshield.com. Code Benson saves you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
I, you, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege, please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, Ain't nobody got time for this.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
You want to survive, you do exactly as I say.
Netflix has a hit on its hands with the new Chris Hemsworth action movie Extraction, or so it claims. The streamer's famously cagey with its viewing numbers, but tweeted a, quote, projected 90 million households are getting in on the action in the first 4 weeks. It only debuted a week ago, so read into that what you will, but if true, it'd make Extraction Netflix's biggest ever film premiere, with 10 million more people watching than Netflix says watched Bird Box last year.
I watched Extraction. Awesome. A lot of fun. And it had it's very interesting. They did a lot of one shoots in there. And if you don't know what a one shoot it is so like the movie this year that was so big, or last year, 1917. That is where they will film the shot they'll do the same shot 5, 10, 15, 20 times, 20, 30, 40 days in a row. Then they'll put together the best of it. So it's one continuous shot. And they did this on a few of them, and you could tell, and it was awesome. Super fun, lots of violence, an interesting story, in a part of the world where we don't, we think of certain situations. Like when we talk about drug cartels and things of that nature, we're usually talking about Mexico, South America, things like that. This was set in Bangladesh and in India. It was just a very interesting movie. Cool cinematography, lots of action. I enjoyed it. And the battle's going on in the movie world right now with what the hell's going to happen to the movie world. And look, I love movies. But I've also liked the fact that I can see some first-run movies at home, and you've got a huge issue going on with AMC, the theaters, and Universal about whether or not they're going to show all of their movies in the theaters or maybe try to do both.
And so, things are evolving to some extent, but no, there's nothing like being in a theater with a group of people and taking that ride together, having that experience as a whole.
And I believe that 100%. I love watching some stuff at home. It's fun. It's great, like Extraction. But for me, Thursday nights, when I stay in town on Thursday night when the theaters are open, especially this movie I want to see, I will make sure I'm there with my popcorn and my hot dog, and I watch the movie, and I enjoy it. I love it. I love doing that. I wouldn't not go see movies.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's a shame when, in 50 years from now, when you look at records and you see a dead season, it's a shame. I don't know what basketball is going to do. I spoke with all of the commissioners on numerous occasions. But no, we want to get sports back in our country. We have to get them back. And it's going to happen. But the NFL took a great step. And they mean business, too. They're going to do it. They have all sorts of contingency plans in case something happens. And they'll move games from one location to another. They're going to do it. And that's a great thing they're doing.
Trump talking about sports. Last week, the first step worldwide in leagues semi-returning was the Bundesliga, which is one of the top soccer leagues in the world. The German league decided that they were going to reopen. It'll start this weekend. A little while ago today, the Premier League, which is arguably outside of the NFL and Major League Baseball, the biggest league in the world, got the go-ahead to restart the season behind closed doors starting June 1st. Their season isn't too far away from being finished, but they do it in a much different way. Our sports leagues don't have relegation, so they may crown a champion during the league season, but they have a relegation battle. The top 6 teams play for a place in European leagues, including the top 4 that play for the Champions League, but the bottom 3 teams go down to division. So it'd be like if we got relegated, if your team got relegated in baseball down to AAA and the 3 teams in the bottom or the top of AAA got to go up top. Well, that's what they do there. So they wanted to figure out a way to finish the season. It looks like they're on track to at least try. There's no doubt who's going to win the league. Liverpool, you'll never walk alone. Up by an just insurmountable lead of 25 points with about 9 games left in the season. It would be virtually impossible for them to lose. And so there's that. But that's a sign that the world's trying to move itself forward and start to get back to something, whatever that something looks like. At first, it's going to be behind closed doors, but what will it look like in, say, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, especially if this thing is seasonal and it slowly but surely starts to dissipate? Are we going to have several months where we're not going to have really any cases except for the ones that we're monitoring and who are in the hospital? It's a possibility. It's also a possibility this thing could go on for quite a while. We don't know. But every step they take to bring us back out of lockdown and sitting around the house rewatching, episodes of Friends or whatever, and the chance to get back out there and start to see things comes back normal, that's a bigger step, and it's a good step, and that's a step that I think we all need. That being said, as we talk about what's going to be happening in the future, let's not forget there's something that's going to be happening in November, and it's called an election.
Warning signs were mounting in January. I was raising the alarm back then, and so were others, including the intelligence community, the federal intelligence community, the CIA, and others. But Trump was warned more than a dozen times this was coming. He knew. He could have been developing an adequate test and deploying them. He could have marshaled supplies and invoked the Defense Production Act to ensure that every community was ready. I think about how much fear, how much loss, how much agony could have been avoided if President Trump hadn't wasted so much time getting started.
That's from a man who says stuff like this.
Make sure to make sense to, I'll put it another way. It makes no sense.
There you go. It makes no sense. Could Trump have done things differently? It's easy to be the Monday morning quarterback. Of course he could. Right? Everybody can sit there and say he could have done. Could he have done some stuff better? Here's the first thing about the test. We should have had better testing, but even now when they talk about the testing, that was one of the things I sit there and I listen to this Dr. Gottlieb talk about the testing that's a rapid test that's going to be. So we've known this thing's been around now for going on 6 months, probably much longer. And remember, the WHO has a part, and we're not talking about the Rock Man. The World Health Organization has an issue with this as well, as far as they said this thing wasn't able to transfer from human to human. We don't believe anything the Chinese government says. So there was a lot of issues along the way. Could we have been better at it? Yes. But even now, as we roll things out, months into it, it's still not 100% when it comes to testing.
What it is, it's a very rapid test that can be used in a doctor's office. And this test was authorized by the FDA. Doctors now have about 40,000 of these Sophia machines already installed in their offices. And you do a simple nasal swab, and the test itself scans for the antigens that the virus produces. The test is about 85% sensitive. So let's say 100 people come into a doctor's office who have COVID-19. 85 of them are going to be able to be tested positive with this test very quickly. It's a cheap test. It'll probably be about $5 a test, and you can get a result within 5 minutes.
The result being fast is great, but 85%, you would like 100%. That would be like the dream. But just because you have a test doesn't mean that it's surefire, that it's going to stop you. Who gets tested more than everybody around the president? And at the same time, the minute you take the test, there's a chance that by the time you get the results, you will have come in contact with people who potentially had it or have it, or things that you touch that had it. You rub your eye, next thing you know, boom. Even when you get the results, it means very little, because while that moment in time you took the test, you may have been negative, you could be positive now. And it's spreading everywhere.
This shows the incredible reach of this virus, that it has penetrated the West Wing, which has more robust, more active testing than any other place in the country. The West Wing is a pretty small place. There aren't many spots to go where you can be distant from other people. You can have that necessary 6 feet. Yes, there are temperature checks. Yes, people are being tested all the time, but clearly the virus has spread, and it really complicates the president's mission here. His relentless tone to say it is time for America to go back to work.
Yeah, but what that also shows you is, well, if they can't figure it out, Last week we had Cuomo going, well, we don't really know why that 66% of the new people that are being tested positive for this and are being hospitalized are people that were following the rules to strictest as far as they weren't essential employees. They weren't going outside. They limited their trips to only the places they had to go. And it's essentially homebound people as far as the orders we've put out there that are testing positive. And I look at this and I'm sitting there laughing my ass off, saying to myself, so even staying at home, it shows you that this thing is everywhere, which is why when I go back to the whole Sweden model, at some point in time, you figure out how you live with it rather than hide from it. Live with it rather than hide from it. You go out, you live with it. You take it on, straight as an arrow. This is what we do. We protect the people that need to be protected, and from then on out, we go out and we absolutely figure out how we live with it, herd immunity, build it up. Because that's what a vaccine is we get a mass, a critical mass of people that get a vaccine, which makes spreading something very, very tough to have happen. Because even though you may have it, if you're the one that has it, but the 10 people around have a vaccine or have immunity to it, you can't give it to them. So the virus somewhat dies with you, hoping it doesn't kill you, but there's nowhere for it to go. And so when you get to that critical mass, and who knows what the critical mass is as far as herd immunity, if you go look at herd immunity when it talks about viruses, it ranges from 25% to 90%. And with this, we do not know what that will look like. What we do know is we can't live like this forever. We've got to figure something out sooner rather than later, and that we start to reopen things. The thought process of people having to be sent home again for many people is a bridge too far. Their businesses won't survive. Economically, as individuals, they may not survive. The mental aspect of it as well is huge. So we'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Now, I want you guys to understand something. There's a lot of stories out there that aren't being covered. We talked earlier about the horrific murder of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, and it was a murder. I don't care what anybody says. That was a murder. But there's other stories that go unnoticed. And when you do something like this, I think it's time that you address the fact that you have an issue with drinking.
Dash cam video from a tanker truck hauling bulk red wine on Highway 99 first shows the suspect in a sedan putting his hazard lights on, directing the truck to the side of the highway. The truck driver pulls over, believing he may have a mechanical problem, only to see the man in the sedan get out, only wearing underwear. He runs to the passenger side of the truck and out of view. As the truck driver pulls back onto the freeway, another onboard camera captures that suspect jump back into view, then on the back of the wine truck.
On the wine truck. So let's paint the picture for you. You're a trucker, you're driving, you're hauling 1,000 gallons of wine. Somebody flashes you, you pull over, you think, oh, Good Samaritan, something, maybe I'm dragging something, I don't know what it is. He exits the vehicle. You see that he is, for all intents and purposes, naked minus his underwear. So you're automatically going with, I don't think this is a good situation. He disappears out of sight. You go, screw it, I'm getting back on the road, and away we go. But it's not over.
With no shirt, no shoes, he rides on the side of the tanker. The video then shows him climbing underneath the truck as it hits freeway speeds. That's when the driver noticed the dashboard gauge showing he was losing hundreds of gallons of red wine. He called the CHP.
I listen to radio. I've listened to thousands and thousands of calls. This one's up there in the top 10.
The truck driver found the suspect, Gabriel Moreno, now under arrest, in an unusual position.
Yes. Wait, what? So he's losing wine. Half-naked man. What did that guy do? Don't know what happened. He's underneath. I'm losing hundreds of gallons of wine that I'm hauling. Cops get involved. Oh, my goodness.
Moreno had unscrewed a valve underneath the truck as it was moving up Highway 99. That sent the tanker's wine gushing and Moreno gulping.
This individual was able to release the wine from under the tanker, and he placed himself underneath the tanker in such a manner, the best way to describe this is somebody doing like snow angels.
Yeah. Drinking up the wine. I do believe that Gabriel, when they have the intervention, all they have to play is that. The video camera, that sound of him saying, hey, this is like the weirdest call out of all the thousands, millions of radio calls, that you're doing snow angels underneath a wine truck, says to me, you have a problem. You have a problem. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Gets underneath the wine truck while it's going on the freeway, unscrews it, and totally does a Peter Griffin by trying to drink every piece of wine that's in the giant 1,000-gallon wine tanker. That is definitely a need for rehab, I'm saying. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
If we see a lot of small businesses going through bankruptcy, where you're going to have empty strip malls for a while until new businesses form, the recovery ends up taking a lot longer.
Yeah, Kashkari right there. It could take a lot longer. I think the recovery is going to come, but remember how we've been talking about this, and I'm laying it out to you. I'm giving it to you not in the hopes and dreams, not in the super downer, but in the reality of what's probably going to happen. It's going to take a little longer than people think. And think of it this way. If you tried to lose 40 pounds, those first 25 pounds, 30 pounds may come off pretty easily. You do a little thing here and there. You pick up your intensity as far as working out, or even start to work out, cut out a few things. But then you get to the point where that last 10% is ugly. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to see. We could see 40 million people out of work because of this by the time we start to really think about reopening in a giant magnitude where we know there's no going back. With that, 25 to 30 million people will probably get back their jobs. But that last 10%, that may not come back for a while. So you're going to see a prolonged unemployment that's going to sit somewhere between probably 9 and 14%, with a lot of people that are underemployed while this thing ramps itself back up. And that could take a year. That could take 2-3 years. But we will get there eventually. We will. That I do know. But it is going to be like that weight loss thing where and first 30 comes off, and it seems like, well, it's not too bad. This will be easy. And then the other parts are going to be like, oh, my God, this isn't coming off at all. In this crazy time of COVID-19, it's always good to say to yourself, let's break a record when it comes to the Guinness Book World of Records. And these cats decided, how many ping pong balls could I throw into a hat that is shaving cream? What is the record? These are a couple guys who have broken like 100 records, and they do it for STEM. So that's math, the STEM. They do it for that. They want to show kids and everybody STEM, how STEM great, how cool it is. So if you've got the foam and you've got the ping pong balls, let's do it.
Well, I'm trying to decide between the Barbazol Thick and Rich Original. We're using IATTF certified table tennis balls.
We're going all out. We're figuring out our strategy. And we're going to get that shaving foam on his head just like it's supposed to be. I'm going to practice throwing those balls, and we're going to beat 22. There is some controversy around this record, but no part of the body is allowed to cross the line. Its current record is 22. Before that, it was held by Dude Perfect at 19.
Dude Perfect. Of course, Dude Perfect is, they do a lot of stuff on the old interwebs. I don't know how many millions of followers they have, but these guys are going to go for it. Here we go.
Okay, we're clear.
All right, here we go. 27, 28, 29. Come on! 29 and table tennis balls caught in the foam on Jonathan's head in 30 seconds. And I'm so excited.
29. Right there. 29. Right there. On top of the dome. Right there. We broke the record. Record's broke. What record is it? It's that record. You're inside, you got a lot going on, you want to push your thing, Guinness Book of World Records. If they don't have it, make it up. Tell them you got it. Show them you can do it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. People are going to be flying. Many of those of you may be flying. Know this, if you're getting on the plane at any point in time in the near future, be prepared.
On Friday, TSA screened the most passengers since late March. So starting today, all U.S. airlines require passengers to wear a face mask.
So face mask it is, although you're seeing lots of pictures and videos where not everybody has a face mask. But I think that'll become more prevalent in the coming days. They should have them at the airport. And if they don't have them and you're saying to yourself, I need to make some money, get yourself a bunch of face masks, make a bunch of face masks, go to the airport and start hawking your wares. Now's the time to be ingenious and entrepreneurial. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You can tweet at me and text the program as well. Got you through a Monday. That's what we do, kids. Never say die attitude. Go break a Guinness Book of World Records. Go have a smile on your face. Take a walk. Have a laugh. I promise you we will do it again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day and evening.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's happening, okay? We are partially reopening Mar-a-Lago, my great property in Florida. Whites only is going to be the partial reopen, okay? And it's okay. It's not, excuse me. No, you're asking a nasty question. Racist? It's not a racist policy. I'm the least racist person in this room for health. We're not letting the groups that are getting sicker in at first.
It's a comic. If you've not seen him, J.L. Cauvin is his name. Cauvin. He is it's spot on and it's hilarious. He's not done.
And they say these communities of color, you heard this phrase? They're getting affected more. So we're asking them nicely. We're doing it very nicely. Mike, didn't I say? I said to that Mexican man to get the hell off of my Mar-a-Lago property. Please. I said, please. Mike knows. I said, please. Not to you. I won't say please to you. You're nasty. But we're reopening it. Mexican and black staff, they have to maintain 60 feet social distancing. But that was always the policy at Mar-a-Lago. So nothing's changed there.
Come on, laugh. Stop being such weenies. Get over yourself. Laugh. Mike. Didn't I say that? I asked nicely, Mike. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. We talked yesterday about the tattle kind of software that's out there for people working at home, the things that you can do, and businesses are trying to keep an eye on their people. Some are going the extra distance when it comes to keeping their eyes on their employees.
Private investigator Dorian Bond, and yeah, that's really his name, knows how to keep tabs and keep a low profile.
You blend in with the environment.
The coronavirus pandemic affecting nearly every business. When companies started locking their doors and sending employees home, Bond thought he'd be doing paperwork, but
calls started coming in from corporations saying, we need you to watch an executive or somebody. They're supposed to be working from home, and we can't get a hold of them ever.
Wait, what? So they're supposed to be working from home. They're getting their cash, their salary. They're making some dollars. Yo. What are they doing?
He says he recently caught executives who were supposed to be working instead teeing up on the golf course, boating and fishing on the lake, and beyond.
A top executive was having a relationship with a subordinate, and they were Zooming from the same house, but in different rooms.
That's kind of funny. That is so funny. A subordinate. So that's what they're doing. They're hiring private eyes. Private eyes. They're watching you. Producer Phil, who sang that great song? They were a duo.
Hall and Oates.
Hall and Oates. Daryl Hall. John Oates. They were supposed to be on tour. They're not on tour right now because nobody's on tour. But they are watching you.
He says it bugs him at his core when many lower-level employees have been furloughed or laid off. The solace is that whoever he's following could be next.
If I get the call, they're pretty sure it's happening. They just need the documentation evidence, so when they decide to go with the termination, they have the proof.
That's interesting. So you're golfing. What if you can't do anything? Like, what are you supposed to do? Because I know in some sense, and by the sounds of it, still it's creepy. It's weird. That's what they're doing. They do this, too. If you hear this all the time where somebody will be getting disability because they hurt their back or their neck, and they'll hire people to go out and see, are you getting this? And then you're playing basketball when you should be at home, and that's what you're telling people. It sounds like what he's doing, though, is more still what I find a little intrusive. But it's not as intrusive as giving your boss access through Tattleware to look at all your stuff and overdo it on a computer. Still not, as to me, as intrusive and wrong as going to a restaurant and them having to ask you, can I have your ID, your address, your email, your phone number? No, you cannot. And I'm not going to eat here now. But it's, to me, this sounds more like they're going after people who are higher ups, who are just sitting around collecting a paycheck. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Is time running out?
Time is running out because the virus is still spreading everywhere. People are getting restless to leave their homes, and we have to make critical decisions on how to balance the economy and science.
How do we do that? How do we balance all of those things? Because what you want to do, we want balance. I don't know anybody who's like, I hope everybody gets this, dies. I don't know anybody like that. It's like with climate change. You can't have a normal conversation with somebody because it's either or scenario. Either it's this or it's that. It's not. It's none of those things, right? You can see the areas that are gray, understand what the other person is saying when we're talking about, hey, we do need to do the best we can to not spread this. And it's different than the flu. Flu, while it spreads, this thing's net, it can be much greater, and the effect it can have on people, especially people who have certain issues and underlying conditions, and the elderly, is massive. And the people that are worried about this can also understand what it's like to be in a position where all you're trying to do is feed your family and keep yourself afloat and keep your head above water. And it's not just the financial side. There's a mental side of this that is real. There is.
And what we have learned from the epidemiologists is that the way to squash a pandemic is to reduce the mobility of people.
Governor Inslee, Washington State, reducing the mobility of people makes it feel like you're doing something to restrict their freedoms. And like anything, so you guys know, I collect, and I'm a reptile guy. And I'm not just like, oh, you got one or two lizards. No, I have massive amounts of very rare lizards, large species that are bigger than me. And some of my lizards, they don't bite, but they don't want you to hold them. You can pet them, but they hate it being restricted. They want to move. They just don't. They want to move. They don't want you holding them. They want you to. It's people get that way, and people are getting that way more and more. More and more, you have them at home, and they feel like they're being punished. They feel like they're in some sort of lockdown, that you're restricting their movement. It's driving them crazy, and that's the psychological side. It's not good for them. As a species, as human beings, we are a species that wants to be social. We are a species that wants to be around other people. We are a species that likes to congregate, that likes to talk, that likes to spend time with individuals. And when you say things like this,
it's too dangerous to go over to a friend's house and be in their living room for an hour right now. It's that indoor situation just spreads the virus.
And that makes people feel like, okay, I'm stuck here. What am I going to do? You've put me in this position, and now I'm in a position where you're telling me I can't even go see my friends, even if I try to social distance and we hang out, and this thing spreads in the air. It's like yesterday I'm reading an article. They could stay in the air for up to 8 hours, some people are saying. So even when you're talking, it could be out there. Well, we're running out of things to protect ourselves. So short of having hazmat suits, having zero human contact, what are we going to do? If you want the economy open, it doesn't mean that you hate people. If you want to shelter in place because you're worried about it, doesn't mean that you hate America, hate Donald Trump, and want to destroy the world and give in. You've got your reasons. Transparency and clarity. That's all people are looking for. Can you be transparent? Show us exactly what's going on and give it to us in a way that there's clarity there, that we have an understanding. I don't need to know, well, we'll go back to our toolbox. If I just need to know, hey, we're going to go from point A to point B. If this happens, this is how we're going to address it. People don't want surprises. They don't.
All we've heard forever, flatten the curve, make sure there's hospital beds. We're there. Now all of a sudden it's like a 180. It's like taking a cross-country flight, 6 hours. They tell you flight 6 hours. 5 hours and a half go by. They get on the intercom like, oh, just kidding. We have another 10 hours. You can't do that. People have been mentally preparing. We're doing what you ask. We've done exactly what you said. Now you're changing the rule.
Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports. When you change the rule, when you move the goalpost, when you give people hope and then hope goes away, not only does it do something to them physically, the mental aspect of it is massive. And when we do return back to some semblance of normalcy, what ends up happening is people are still in a position where they're worried about spending money, about doing certain things and that's not going to help the economy because they don't know what the next move is going to be for you, knowing there is going to be a spike, but understanding that, hey, look, even if there's a spike, we're going to choose this path and we're going to stay on this path. That would give people at least the understanding of, okay, this is where we're going to go. I don't have to worry about being shut down tomorrow. But if you tell them there's a chance we may shut you down again, that gets in their head. And that's understandable. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. You can text the program as well on this beautiful Friday. All right. MyPillow. PPEs. What have they done? They've switched over from the production of their MyPillow products to making masks and PPEs for hospitals, first responders. And by doing that, they want to make sure they clean out the warehouse. So they're doing a BOGO, buy one, get one free on every product. You name it, from the Supima My Pillows to the Dream Sheets to the towels, you name it. It's buy one, get one free. Made in the USA, 60-day money-back guarantee, and a 10-year warranty. Here's the beauty of this. So you go to MyPillow.com, and the new radio listener special, you type in Benson, that's my code. On the way out, if you order Mike Lindell's book, which is a great read, by the way, about his life and where he's gone from hell and back, it's awesome because he's going to ship everything for free. And on top of that, he's going to give you a $25 gift card towards your next purchase at MyPillow. Go to MyPillow.com. Use code Benson. That's MyPillow.com, code Benson, and save big. Buy one, get one free. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
I, you, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege. Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, boo. Ain't nobody got time for this.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
It's the first time in 20 years that AAA won't be publishing a travel forecast for Memorial Day weekend. The Motor Club says it's because the accuracy of economic data used to create that forecast has been undermined by COVID-19. But it does expect fewer people will travel. Last year, 43 million Americans hit the road over Memorial Day weekend. The lowest volume of 31 million happened in 2009, toward the end of the Great Recession. AAA says it does expect to make travel projections for the late summer and fall if things are better.
Big if things are better. But who's traveling next week? We're off next Friday. And, of course, Memorial Day will be off. But we're not going anywhere. Normally, this time of the year, I'd go out and see Jack. And I was talking to my son last night. And as he and I were chatting, I said to him, I said, dude, I can't come see you right now. And he goes, I know, Dad. And it's not because I worry what would happen. Or even he worries because, we would do whatever we would, I don't know what is even open. California is totally different. Out here in Phoenix, we've opened up. We're doing our thing. But there it's you can't even go outside the house without a face mask on in certain cities. And when I see him, it's very interesting because even when his mom sends me videos or we talk when he's out back playing. Yeah. So I got him like a football thing where he can throw the footballs into the nets. And yesterday he had his full gear on and he's out back tackling his little tackle dummy. And it's tough. I told him, you're going to be out here in like a month and you'll spend a month or so out here. And I've had him for a month because of this whole nightmare, but he's finishing up school. But his aunt had double lung transplant. So when he left my house about 3 weeks ago, he had to be quarantined for 2 weeks, and so did his mom. And his mom is having to take care of getting their groceries and everything for his aunt and grandmother, her sister and mom, because they have issues. So explaining that, to him, it's tough because I want to see him. We could FaceTime and do a lot of things. So it's crazy, and it sucks. People aren't going to be traveling. These are the trickle-down effects of people not going places, not staying in hotels, not frequenting tourist stops that depend on these times of year to make it through the leaner times of year. And that's that trickle-down effect that just it's a tough situation, and you don't know what it's going to look like. Do I think we'll be here this time next year here like this? No, I don't. I don't at all. But it's going to be a tough year for a lot of people. And even though they may skate by now, they look at the long-term picture, and there's a lot of people out there who are going to be unsure. And they may not feel the pain of this for a while. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Enjoy his show. Watch it on the YouTube all the time. Follow him on Twitter as well. He's got a new book out, which I'm listening to rather than reading because I travel a lot. Dave Rubin joins us. The new book's called Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason, and we're definitely there. So, Dave, you're out there trying to promote this thing. Let's talk about reason and non-reason, because it's not like before where you're traveling around because we can't do it because of, COVID-19. How's that going, trying to promote the book, but not really getting out there and having a chance to promote the book?
Yeah, it's been kind of bizarre. I was supposed to be on tour right now. We had about 25 theater shows throughout the country, and we were setting up a whole bunch more. And, I love being on tour. I toured for about a year and a half with Jordan Peterson all over the world. I love meeting people. I love doing the big theater shows and the crowds and all that. And now I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I'm at home. I'm talking to people on Skype and Zoom and on the phone. And, while that is not as fun per se, and because I do miss that human connection, I guess it's made my life a little bit easier. I'm in sweatpants right now. That's pretty good because normally I'd have to dress up all fancy. So I really can't complain. And more than anything else, when you write a book, the publishing process takes a really long time. So I finished this thing back in July, but the ideas that I talk about limited government, about states' rights, about individual responsibility, about the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, the right to assemble, these are things that people are really talking about right now because of COVID. We're suddenly realizing, holy cow, I can't go to my place of work. We're suddenly realizing I can't assemble with friends. These are real things to think about. And more importantly than anything else, I think the states' rights argument, which is usually just thought of as like a libertarian kind of wonky argument that nobody really talks about. Well, everybody's talking about it right now. New York has a different situation than, say, Montana, and Montana has a different situation than Texas or California. So I think people are waking up to these ideas. So the timing is good, although everything being equal, I wish we were all out there living our normal lives again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd all would wish that because we're watching the economy, totally disappear. And you talk about states' rights. We just did a story earlier today about a woman in Texas who was locked up for 7 days and fined $1,000 for opening her salon because she needed to feed her kids. And it's insane, brother.
It's absolutely insane. I actually just tweeted about her. Shelley Luther is her name. She is a true American hero. This is not somebody who just said, oh, I want to defy all the orders. I think this is a hoax. I'm just going to get out there and do whatever I want. This is a woman who owns a salon, who knows that her workers are struggling. They want to feed their kids. She put policies in place involving masks and proper cleaning techniques and all of these things with limited amount of people that could come into the salon so that she could responsibly go about continuing her life. And I don't know if you just saw it, but, the judge basically said, you have to apologize for doing this. And she stood up and said, I will not apologize for trying to feed my kids. That is a true American hero. As a matter of fact, right before I jumped on the phone with you, I just donated to her GoFundMe, which they were trying to raise $250,000, and I think they're just about there. And I'm sure they're going to raise much more because heroes don't always come in capes. They sometimes come as salon owners in Dallas, Texas, and she is definitely one of them.
That's true. Talking to Dave Rubin, your book, I've been going through it all as fast as I possibly can, listen to some stuff twice, and I enjoy so much of your take. And, you talk about yourself being a classic liberal. I don't think many people understand, because when you hear you talk, people say, well, he sounds very conservative. But you work with the Young Turks. You're on the progressive side. Explain to people out there who don't quite understand what exactly classic liberal is compared to conservative, progressive as we see it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking because it's true. The word liberalism has really been mangled. When I talk about classical liberalism, the true roots of liberalism, which really started in the 1700s, this is the idea that we should have individual rights, meaning if you're a legal member of society, you should have quality of rights, whether you're a man or a woman or black or white or gay or straight or whatever it may be, equal rights. Now, that doesn't mean that some of us aren't born into more money. Some of us aren't born with greater physical gifts, the litany of things that can happen in life. But that's not for the government to really figure out how to rejigger so we can all live equal lives. That's on you. So classical liberalism means individual rights and the light touch of government. Now, of course, in a modern sense, you're right. That sounds like libertarianism. That sounds like conservatism. And I understand that. And that's why I would say most of my political allies at this point are libertarians or conservatives. But I think it's important to note that liberalism was not always what it is now. You know, this giant government socialist monster that we've seen come out of the left, it was not always like this. Let's not forget JFK. What's his most famous quote? Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Think about how reverse that is than what Bernie Sanders would say. What Bernie Sanders would say is your country must do these things for you and free everything. So we have a history of good liberals in this country, from JFK to Daniel Patrick Moynihan to Ed Koch. And unfortunately, that's just sort of been decimated. So I often say defending my liberal principles is becoming a conservative position. And that explains why the word itself has been confused.
Talking to Dave Rivlin, the book is called Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Reason. Some of the stuff I found just, as I go through it, and I've listened to it on a few occasions and trying to get through it, is your take on you take on Asian. I'm sitting there going, okay, he said the word Asian, so but privilege. How can there be privilege? But you break it down, and it's one of those things where we can't say that in today's world, because it's like COVID-19 is COVID-19 when everything else was called, the Ebola River. Why? We call it Lyme disease. Why? Well, we had to change it because to make it feel better. It's a murder hornet, not a giant Asian hornet that's killing, everybody's afraid of. And you talk about Asian privilege, and I thought, wow, he went there.
Well, look, the idea of Asian privilege, well, first off, it's Asian people like everybody else. I mean, think of every ethnic group that came to America, right? Italians, Jews, Greeks, black people, everybody came to America, whatever Asian country your ancestors may have come from. Everyone came here. No one gave anyone anything. We all have the same stories. I talk about my family stories, but everyone has the same story, basically, of their family coming from Europe or wherever they came from with nothing, but was on their back, or what they had in a little suitcase and had nothing. And that story is true for Asians. And oddly, what has happened is the Asian community has busted their butts, has cared about family, has worked really hard, and through that really cared about education. Through that, they've succeeded. And what the left wants to do is now hold that against them. And the greatest example of that is that Harvard literally has a policy that will punish Asian students. They feel they have too many Asian students. This is what I would call racism, because the idea is, we want to help other groups. Except every time you say you want to help another group based on their race, you have to punish somebody else. And why should an 18-year-old Asian kid who busts his butt, who works hard, who came from a family that taught him the right things and he cared about education, why should he be punished and not allowed to go to Harvard for doing the right thing, for his family following the American dream? So most of the things that come out of the left, they sort of sound right, like, we want to help these people, whatever these people are. But what you have to do is then punish someone who is undeserving of being punished.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and you're a free thinker. That's why I watch your show. There's some free thinkers out there that are real, and some that They play the game. They hope they are, but the reality is it's a game for them. And I enjoy watching you because you're not insane. And I think the thing about a lot of people on the right and left is they don't get each other because the extremes have hijacked all conversation. Most people are, in cases, they want to go to the same place, Dave. They have a different path, but it's not too dissimilar. But the extremes hijack everything, and it puts us, I feel, at war. And the extremes like it because there's money to be made there.
Absolutely. Well, look, that is the main thesis of this book, that you are allowed to think for yourself. You don't have to believe in every single thing that the Democrats tell you to believe to be on the left or a Democrat. You don't have to believe in everything that the Republicans say to be on the right or a conservative. Just because you're, say, for gay marriage doesn't mean you can't be for low taxes. Just because you're for the death penalty doesn't mean you can't be for legalizing marijuana. I could do a million versions of these things. And I think most people in America want to live and let live. I think most people in America want to live their lives and let their neighbor live their lives and get out of the way. We've just sort of been tricked into thinking that the government is supposed to do everything and tell us all how to live. And I think a lot of people are waking up to it right now because of coronavirus, because we're seeing what awesome power government has over our lives. And just because it's powerful doesn't mean it's just or right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You see it everywhere. I mean, we have a couple sheriffs out here in Phoenix where I'm at. One of them, Mark Lamb, he's always on live PD, but he refuses to go in and write citations to store owners. He says, why is it that these people can't open, but Target and Walmart get to open, and they're selling goods too? Constitution is what I take orders from, not from people. And you're right about the government. I mean, this is giving a lot of people that firsthand snapshot of how government can not only encroach, but I don't think a lot of these things that they're putting out there, executive orders, are going to expire. See the Patriot Act. So you finished this book. Your hair was falling out. Saw that. That was very interesting. Now you've got this thing out there. What do you want people to take away from it? Because as I go through it, it's for everybody who's truly open-minded. And too many people on both sides want you always to make a decision. You're either with us or against us. You can't be free thinking and take everything as its own issue. What do you want people to get out of this?
What I want people to get out of this is not that you have to agree with me with every policy that I have. I'm sure if we talked for another hour, we could find some points of disagreement. That's a beautiful thing in America. That's not what I'm trying to solve. What I'm trying to solve is you better start speaking up now. I know it's scary. I know you're afraid for your job. You're afraid for your family. Nobody wants to deal with the mob and the whole thing. And yes, I talked about how when I first started getting mobbed, I suddenly developed this condition called alopecia areata. I lost about 40% of my hair. It was a freaking miserable time in life. But when you get on the other side and you actually stand up for what you believe in, you will be better. You will find better friends. You will have more rich relationships. And more importantly than that, if you think that your silence is what's going to save you here, that, oh, this thing will just pass and my silence will save me, well, guess what? You're the frog in the slowly boiling pot, and it never ends well for the frog. So you've got a moment right now, especially because of what's going on with Corona. Fight for what you believe in, even if it's not exactly what I believe in. That's what America is.
Why have we stopped having conversations? And people always ask me, why do you have a certain person on and not another person? And I say, well, you know what? I ask everybody. I ask everybody on the left, come on, because I'm not right or left. I'm an independent as it gets. And they won't come on, yet anybody on the right will go on anything. I even watched Bill Maher a couple months ago when he had on, what's his name that ran Trump's campaign, Bannon.
He's had Steve Bannon on. He had Dan Crenshaw on last week.
Yeah.
Bill Maher is a good example of basically the last liberal who's willing to do that sort of thing, because you're right, conservatives all the time. I mean, look, I bring on people like Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro and Dan Crenshaw and Glenn Beck come on my show all the time. They know we have some political disagreements, and guess what? I'm friends with all of them. I've broken bread with all of them, and we've enjoyed those conversations. On the left, it's getting much trickier to do it, and the reason for that is they believe, because, as a general rule, they believe that because they feel something, that it automatically is right. Except just because you feel something doesn't make it right. What makes something right is a fact-based analysis. I mean, that's using logic and reason. We were given these brains by God to use them. That's what makes us different than the animals. And the left has gone with this feeling-based thing. So when someone disagrees with them, they take it as an affront to their humanity, whereas that's very different, where generally on the right, if you say to someone on the right, hey, I'm pro-choice, you're pro-life, usually they'll say, well, here are the reasons I'm pro-life. Why are you pro-choice? And that's very different than on the left when you say, if someone says I'm pro-life, a lefty will just say, oh, well, that means you hate women. And we have to break out of that cycle, because we're in a country of 350 million people. And guess what? There's a lot of opinions in there. And I just don't want to bow to somebody else's opinion because they're threatening me.
Amen. Love it. The book's awesome. Don't burn this book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason. There's plenty of it out there, man. We know you've been talking all day. Appreciate you coming on. Go try to relax yourself, and good luck on the book, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Dave Rubin right there. Amazing. And I've got he actually narrates the book too, which is awesome, because sometimes, and it's like perfect compared to a lot of other books I get where it's the read is not as good. You will enjoy it. Don't burn this book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason. Check it out. Great book. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
They can get contraceptive coverage only from paying out of their own pocket, which is exactly what Congress didn't want to happen.
Yeah, that right there is RBG. She's out of the hospital. She is part of the first time ever holding these hearings for the Supreme Court online, virtual. It's very interesting. You can actually listen to it. It is really fascinating. And one of my other producers, Pablo, listened to it. He's like, man, these people are just so ridiculously sharp. And today they've made their first ruling. They've thrown out the convictions of the New Jersey officials in the Bridgegate scandal. And it was a unanimous decision. They concluded that, yes, it was political in nature what they did. They said they used deception to cut across lanes from Fort Lee to New Jersey Bridge. They jeopardized the safety of the town's residents, but not every corrupt act by state or local officials is a federal crime. They also said they did not aim to obtain money or property, and therefore they could not have violated wire fraud laws. Part of what happens in this day and age is they use certain things, especially the feds, like the RICO Act, to just blanket go after everybody for everything. And they came in today at the SCOTUS unanimously and said, nope, not going to do it. Imagine SCOTUS, though. You're a lawyer. You have a chance to pitch them on your case. You're in front of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. This is it. Like, this is one of our co-equal branches. You have this opportunity. But we live in a time of COVID. Everybody's social distancing. They're all away from each other, so you're doing it via Skype or Zoom or some special, closed-circuit TV kind of thing that they've all got beamed in there so they can all hear it. But people are still inside their homes.
The subject matter of the call might range beyond the collection of government-backed debt. Maybe they're going to be marketing some other product. Maybe they're going to be saying, hey, call your congressman and change these laws that apply to banks. And what the FCC has said is that when the subject matter of the call ranges to the topics, then the call is transformed, and it's a call that would have been allowed and it's no longer allowed.
Yeah, that was a flushing sound. We were trying to figure out who it was. We think it's Clarence Thomas. We went with that. We think we know it's not the attorney, right? Like the attorney, this is his big, or her, whoever would be doing something like that. You're in front of it. You're going to do all you can to show respect. This is it. But the judges, on the other hand, a little older, doing their thing, probably don't quite get how the technology works, that you're getting picked up on everything. Maybe they thought they had a mute button on and they didn't hit the right thing. And lo and behold, in the middle of it, you got that. Probably not a good sound. I don't know if they flushed the case or not. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. Check out thechadshow.com. Grab your podcast where great podcasts are available. I like to think my podcast is pretty good. You can hear the Dave Rubin interview. Great interview. Good dude. Check it out. Follow along on Twitter and, of course, Instagram as well. It is The Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
This is The Chad Benson Show.
This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
More and more information keeps coming in that is fundamentally changing our initial views. There are studies suggesting children don't necessarily transmit the disease to other people. So was it right to shut down schools? There's some people speculating that this is a disease that mostly spreads in hospitals and nursing homes and very crowded, cramped places like public transit. So did we need to lock down so much of the economy?
That's a great question, Kimberly Strassel, Wall Street Journal editorial board. I don't know. Here's the thing. What do we know? Well, it's novel, so we don't know a lot. And at the same time, we're looking back and saying, what are the real numbers? What are the real numbers? And at the end of the day, we're never going to know the exact numbers, and there's a reason for that. Because maybe we're undercounting, maybe we're overcounting. That's always a possibility as well, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as we get ready to reopen everything, Fauci, of course, today on the Hill doing his little thing, because we've got to make sure that this is all Trump's fault and that this could be another opportunity if he wins that we impeach him. So let's make sure we do that, and that every death we're going to pin on him, even though we all know that's ridiculous. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That is ridiculous. But you can't let politics get in the way, and neither side allows that to happen. But people are trying to figure out how to get their lives back. They're trying to figure out, what do we do from here? Fauci, on top of all of this stuff, testifying, he's also in the New York Times warning that reopening this early is going to be a major disaster.
I think there's a certain lack of humility out there of those who are saying lockdowns were the answer and all of these rules are the way forward, instead of admitting that there's still a lot we just don't know.
No. There's a lot we don't know. Like I say, we're not going to know for a long time. But one thing I do know is people are itching to try to get their lives back. Itching to get out there and get moving, itching to try to save whatever they possibly can when it comes to this. Because so many people I've talked to are in a situation that is just ugly. I have a lot of friends who are small business owners. Some of them have managed to survive. Few of them have thrived. And a lot of them are on the edge. They've exhausted their savings. They've dipped into their college funds for their kids. They've done everything they possibly can. And they're looking around saying, what are we going to do? And they're waiting for that next thing. What is the next thing? What happens when there's a spike? Because there's going to be a spike. You absolutely know there's going to be a spike. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. What I do know is people are over this. People are ready to try to start to fight back and get their lives going. And people understand now, okay, I'm under a certain age. I'm in pretty good health. The chances of me dying from this are slim to none. So let's get out there and get back at it. You've got states that aren't sure. You've got some states that are raring and rocking to go. You just don't know. And the thing is, you also don't know what's behind that. Meaning, if things go south, tests start to rise a little bit. You have clusters of area. We heard Mayor Garcetti yesterday in Los Angeles say, I have no hesitation. I'll shut it down again. You can't do that in an economy where you shut everything down. And then you've got the science behind it. Whose science do we believe? Is it this science? Is it that science? Is it you? You over here said we should shut everything down for 6-7 more months until we have a total handle on this and potentially a vaccine. You over here says we should open up partially and gradually for the next 6 months. You over here say there may never be sports again the way we used to. You over here said until we get a vaccine, life's going to be like this. And you over here said we should do nothing. Who am I supposed to believe? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. It's crazy, for sure. All of that going on. We've got the fun that is, yes, kids, more hearings. Because you got to have hearings. You got to. We're not through it, but you got to have hearings.
The American people need to hear from experts in a fair, open, and truthful setting. Until now, we've mostly heard from the members of the coronavirus task force through the distorted lens of the White House press conference, where the president often prevents them from answering fully. This will be one of the first opportunities for Dr. Fauci to tell the American people the unvarnished truth without the president lurking over his shoulder. Dr. Fauci, let it rip.
Let it rip. You're not interested in trying to find out what the truth is. You're interested in, when you say let it rip, to me it sounds like, let's get him. Now's the chance. We've got him. Hell, if they could figure out how to charge him for murder, they probably would. In the time of crisis, we don't need this tribalism. You want to have hearings? Knock yourself out afterwards. I got no problem with that. But when the average person's trying to figure out how to keep food on their table, how to keep that table, and how to keep the roof above the table in their lives, all the while trying to figure out also how to be a teacher and continue to try to do what they're doing business-wise, you want to sit down and play grab-ass politics. And I don't think people are really interested in that. I don't. I think people want to figure out, how do we get our lives back to some normalcy in the next several weeks? But you want to say, hey, let's do it. Let's let it rip. You got anything? Put a little spice on it. We're good with that. And it's funny because there's a great article out talking about the partisan tribalism on MSN. And it shows something about this. It says Democrats are more fearful. And this is a Monmouth University poll. So it says, how concerned are you about someone in your family getting seriously ill from the coronavirus? Democrats, 60%. Republicans, 25%. Independents, 38%. Somewhat concerned, 27% for both of them, 30% for independents. Not too concerned, 10%, 21% for Republicans, 12% for independents. Not concerned at all, 25% Republican, 19% independents, 3%. We were talking about this yesterday. The mask thing. The damn mask thing has become a partisan issue, for God's sakes. If you don't wear a mask, it's because you're a proud MAGA man, MAGA woman. If you do wear a mask, you're a frail little Democrat. No. Hell, I forget. Partly because my life's not changed as far as where I go. I don't go out. I never do. Minus a movie, and I haven't gone to a movie in months. I get here at 3:30 in the morning, leave at 6, 7 o'clock at night. By the time I get home, I'm not going to dinner. So not a lot's changed for me. But even the mask thing's become partisan. And in a time when we need leaders to stop bitching, whining, and moaning and talk about getting us on the path that we need to. And by the way, getting us on a path doesn't mean you save us. It means opening up and allowing people to live their lives and save themselves. Save themselves from the mess that this is. I don't blame the doctors for being uber concerned. I don't blame the doctors for doing the things that they believe is right. No chance do I blame any of them. Do I think we can go overboard? Yes, 100%. But the reality is, at this point in time, we've got to start asking ourselves, what happens next when there is a spike? Are you prepared to shut it down again? And what does it look like when people aren't prepared? What are states and cities going to do? How are they going to react? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. So I took my test. I took both tests to see if I had antibodies, which I don't, but I also don't have it. So that's good, I guess, right? Like I don't have it, and I didn't have it. So that's kind of a bonus. And I asked him how long would the antibodies stay with me, and he's like, again, we're not too sure, but you would think 6 months to a year at least. So I said, okay, if I had this back in January, then this wouldn't be a big deal. It still would have been with me. He said, yeah. So he goes, you don't have it, and you've not had it. And I said, okay, there we go. Moving on with our lives. There you go. Moving on with our lives. It was nice because I got to get a test. A lot of people say they can't get a test. And I'm like, really? You can't get a test? I'm like, how hard is it? For some people, it's extremely hard. That's the testing side of things. It's not been the easiest. You think it would be. And even with the testing, it's not been like yesterday talking about, well, testing could be like 85% accurate. I'm like, could you imagine there's 15% chance you're not pregnant? But there's also an 85% chance that you are. We're just going to have a sit and wait and see attitude. We'll see what happens. Maybe something falls out of you in 9 months. Maybe something doesn't. We'll go from there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Saving money. I love doing that. Gabby, they're going to help me. Well, by that, I mean help me show you how you save money. And it's the best way to do it. So you've got homeowners insurance. You got car insurance. Are you getting everything out of it? Meaning, everything great? You sure you're paying the best rate? Well, maybe it's time to check out Gabby and see if you can get a lower rate on the exact same coverage. Saved me about $1,000 with my car insurance and everything over the year. That's awesome. That is amazing. It was like 150, it was like $75 a month, $80 a month total. And all I did was I went to Gabby.com and just plugged in all my information. They gave me apple-to-apples comparison on the coverage of 40 the top insurers. So, Progressive, Nationwide, Travelers, just to name a few. I linked my accounts. My homeowner's insurance, spot on. Slept well at night. Couldn't do anything better. My car insurance, ridiculously overpaid. Got cheaper coverage. The same coverage, too. Gabby customers save $825 per year on average. And if you can't find any of the savings, you can sleep well at night knowing, hey, I got everything I need. And they're never going to sell your info. There's no spam, robocalls, anything like that. It's totally free to check your rate. It takes about 2 minutes. You can do it right now. That's what I want you to do. Go to Gabby.com/Benson, Gabby.com/Benson. Check your rate. Totally free. Takes about 2 minutes. Gabby.com/Benson, Gabby.com/Benson. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
It's obvious we need to reopen, but stupid rules threaten to wreck the recovery. Compulsory temperature checks, totally pointless. You'll miss most people with coronavirus and catch many who don't have it. Telling childcare facilities to use yarn to create 6-foot boxes for toddlers to stay in. Only 1 or 2 people allowed in an elevator at any one time. On and on it goes.
What did I see yesterday? It was Illinois, like only 2 people allowed on a boat. Are you being serious? Here's the way I view boats. If I'm on a boat, minus a cruise ship, but if I've been invited there or I have a boat, chances are I know the people getting on my boat. We're not talking about like a yacht or something. I know the people that are on the boat, and they know me. I'm not getting on a boat that holds 10 people, and I'm like, where did these 9 people show up? I've never met them. They just got on my boat. Like, that's the ridiculousness that we're finding nowadays. Like, that is like only 2 people allowed on your boat. Okay, that's dumb. Do you have other dumb ideas, or I'm sure you do. I'd love to hear them. Only 1 person allowed in the elevator. Okay. Only 1 person in a car. I'll have my child drive himself to school. It'll be fantastic. I'm just curious about the school thing. Because Jack is getting stuff like as they start to talk about reopening in California. And so Jack's getting all kinds of stuff like they're sending home. And maybe we'll go 3 days. And I was talking to my mom, like she's talking about like how are they going to social. How do you tell kids to social distance? Honestly, I'm curious. How are you going to tell kids to social distance? You're not. You're not going to tell them, don't go outside and play with your friends. It's recess. I want everybody to we're going to draw like circles. And each one of you can play inside of your own circle. Won't this be fun? You're going to set desks 6 feet apart. It doesn't affect children near as bad as the flu does. And based on several new studies, which, again, we can look at studies and go, I hear a lot of stuff. When it comes to studies, based on those, they don't seem to be the big super spreaders that everybody thinks. So what do we do? These rules are ridiculous. They are. It's like either go or don't go, but don't half-ass it. When I played soccer, you'd always tell the guys that would get hurt, they wouldn't go hard. There would be like a challenge, and they would kind of go soft. Either go full-blooded or don't go at all. You're not going to send kids to we're going to send the kids to school once a week, twice a week. So what? There's like a 35% chance that they could catch it. So we're going to mitigate the risk by only sending them 1 or 2 days a week. Well, if we send them 1 day, it's only 20%. That's a great idea. If we send them no days, there's no chance they'll catch it at school. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. Can you imagine that? You can only have 2 people on a boat. It's a big boat. If I'm inviting people, I probably know them. I don't just randomly tell people, hey, you want to come get on my boat? Dumbasses. Oh, my Lord. And we're supposed to listen. Idiots. America, we're fighting like lions, but unfortunately I feel like we're led by donkeys. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
This is the best of Chad Benson.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hundreds of thousands of kids in kindergarten to grade 6 were invited back to class in the province of Quebec this week. It was voluntary, and some schools put out videos to let kids know what to expect. 6 feet between desks in all classrooms, no sharing school supplies, play structures are off limits, and
gym, library, NPR, cafeteria, all are closed.
NPR? Yeah, get rid of NPR too. Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening. It's time to talk about NPR. That sounds like fun. How are you going to troll kids like that? Honestly. Tell a kid they can't do something. That's all they want to do. Tell them they should all spend every waking second with each other nonstop, and they'll maybe semi-social distance. Oh, my God. I can't wait to see. I don't envy teachers anyway, but trying to work around No Child Left Behind, also Common Core, also hermetically sealed, that's going to be the new education. No Child Left Behind with Common Core hermetically sealed.
It's like the first day of school with new rules, and we need to show them those new rules. And
September is coming, and I said, you know what, let's try and get things going to get them back into reality, get them back into somewhat of a routine, and to realize what is going to be the new reality.
It's not the new reality. Stop with that. Those are Canadians, so it's not the new reality. I'm here to tell you people, none of it's the new reality. It's the moment that we live in right now. It's not the new reality. I do not foresee a future where we're all walking around with masks on 24/7, that we have to stay 6 feet away from each other all the time, that we're only allowing 2 people on a boat. None of that's real. Kids, it's going to be super exciting. Jimmy, I want you to play sports. You're going to play handball. Who am I playing against? Nobody. Dodgeball. Who am I playing against? Nobody. You throw it, use your imagination like you got somebody out. Then you run over to the other side, pick it up, throw it again. Use your imagination. See if you got somebody out. So stupid. My God. It's nuts. But welcome to the world that we live in. We live in insanity. We do. We're living in a world of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We've seen this thing. We understand where the real issues are when it attacks people. Well, some people are younger get sick. Yeah, some people who are younger get sick. And they die. They also die with the flu. Elon Musk said this, and I thought it was apropos. He didn't say this once. He said it twice in two different ways.
Then if somebody dies, was COVID a primary cause of the death or not? If somebody has COVID, gets eaten by a shark, we find their arm has COVID, it's going to get recorded as a COVID death.
Yeah. Oh, that's silly. No, it's true. It's crazy. It's absolutely true. He wasn't done.
Like I said, something should be recorded as COVID only if it is somebody has been tested, has received a positive COVID test, not if they simply have symptoms, one of like 100 symptoms. And then if it is a COVID death, it must be separated. Was COVID a primary reason for death, or did they also have stage 3 cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and got hit by a bus and had COVID?
It's not very nice. Just being honest. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, right? What I do know is because originally 50 million people were going to get this, right? So you had 50 million people that were going to get this, and then all the death that was going to come out of it. And look at the numbers. Well, we don't know how many people. We've got, 1.4 million, give or take? What if 90% of people are asymptomatic? As they're pointing out in a lot of places, that most people have no idea whether they had it. What if instead of this, it was 10 million and the deaths were 80,000, give or take? All of a sudden, you're looking at a rate that's a little bit higher than the flu, and people are going to ask serious questions about this. Because as we sit here and we see what's going on, the reality is people are getting pissed. And this genie in the bottle that they're about to open right now in some states in a much bigger way is not going back in the bottle. Some states still, like Elon Musk says, he's about done with California, ready to get the hell out of there. And I get it.
If somebody wants to stay in their house, that's great. They should be allowed to stay in their house, and they should not be compelled to leave. But to say that they cannot leave their house and they will be arrested if they do, this is fascist. This is not democratic. This is not freedom. Give people back their goddamn freedom.
What do you think of that? Again, Elon Musk. He's interesting. He's crazy. Don't get me wrong. Guy's out there. But he's interesting, and crazy people are right, too. I was reading an article that he's a billionaire, but he's cash poor. People are like, well, how can you be cash poor? Well, everything's in stocks or your company or your homes or... So, and cash poor is a relative term to what he has. It's like, I don't think he's going, hey, can I borrow $20? I need to put gas in my car. But as far as like, does he have $25 million cash on hand in the bank at any given time? Maybe not. Maybe not. But he's an interesting character. He says within a year, we're going to have the microchips ready for the brain. And I've said it. I've been out there. I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. Totally. I'll totally do it. Of all the things, like, that's one of the things I'm like, yeah, I'd do that. I'd absolutely do that. Be a ninja? Do you get to learn how to be a ninja? Is that part of the thing? Is it going to be like, what was that movie with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix? Is that what it was? All right, cool. I'd be up for that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter, your Instagram, and your Facebook. The owners yesterday submitted a proposal, some Major League Baseball owners, to the teams, representatives, who will then turn around, look at it, talk to the players, and then they'll take it to the unions. And then God only knows what happens from there about kickstarting Major League Baseball.
It's going to look a lot different than this initial proposal, Sage. Okay. And that's an important thing to remember. Buster Olney said earlier today, we're in the top of the first right now. And, to use a baseball metaphor, that's 100% true, because in the end, where I think everybody's going to land is that playing baseball is better than not playing baseball. There are so many downsides on both sides to there being no games this season. So practically, pragmatically, logically, it just makes sense for them to hash out their issues, to go back and forth, and then to strike a deal ultimately and bring baseball back at the beginning of July.
So that's what they're looking for. July 4th weekend of launch. You're going to play most of your teams in your division, a few interleague games, 82-game schedule. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Spring training would start mid-June. Each team would play about 82 games against mostly divisional opponents and interleague matchups with teams from the same region. The designated hitter would be expanded to both leagues.
Ew, not a fan of the designated hitter.
Teams would have the option of playing games in home stadiums, spring training facilities, or neutral sites approved by medical and government officials. Playoff teams would be expanded from 10 to 14. The All-Star game set for Dodger Stadium would be scrapped under the plan, which still needs to be approved by the Players Union before it can move forward.
So no All-Star game, 14 teams. And the way that they would do it is because there's no minor leagues this year, obviously. So you would have normally it's a 25-man roster. So you'd have a 30-man roster now and 50 total players. So that means that you'd be on the Major League roster and 20 of those players wouldn't suit up for those games. Just like if you got a guy that's injured, you can bring a guy up immediately. That way you always have people that are fresh. It would be interesting. I mean, is it better than nothing? I would say it's better than nothing. But I'm looking at football as the one. I think if football was canceled, that does something totally different than anything else. Baseball never started. I don't know about the NBA. I still think every day goes by, it gets further and further away. Hockey, I just don't think there's any chance of hockey. Soccer around the world. This weekend, you've got the German league kicks off again behind closed doors. The Premier League, which is next to the NFL, probably the most popular league in the world, will kick off June 1st behind closed doors. And this NBA, I think Major League Baseball could do it. And the NFL, though, the NFL to me is if it doesn't go and it doesn't start and it's pushed out and then it's eventually canceled, it's the morale side of things that I think hurts in so many ways I don't think people understand. That's the one I think that people are looking at. And the one thing the NFL has compared to everybody else is a very large run-up before their season begins. And baseball was in spring training before this thing really took off, and then they had to cancel. Hockey and basketball were almost done with their seasons. So now you're at a point where football will have several months of this, and if it doesn't start, that will be a huge blow to the American psyche that will take a long time for, I think, people to come out of. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Masks are, well, they're part of everyday life now. Too many of you out there are homemade masks. They don't fit right. They don't really do anything. But why not get something that's inexpensive, that's comfortable, and that you can use for 30 days? Boomer Naturals has a 30-day face mask, and it is awesome. They're amongst the highest protection mask any civilian can get. 92.2% antibacterial protection, and it will protect dangerous particles and droplets flying in the air coming at you. What's great about these? 3 layers, hypoallergenic, 35% polyester, 65% cotton. It's a blended material. Each layer is treated with antibacterial and antiviral stuff. It's just great. And it's 30 days. What that means is you take it off, wash it in warm water with a little bit of soap, air dry it, use it again tomorrow. What I love is the comfort. I sent, luckily through them, they said, hey, we'd like to make a donation. And they sent about 1,500 masks to St. Mary's, which is a big food bank out here in Phoenix. They rave about them, how comfortable they are. They fit them. They fit the face and like comfortably the nose and the mouth. And they have children's sizes as well. So doesn't matter. They got different colors, children's sizes. The fit is perfect and inexpensive, big time. Now I want you try it. Simple and easy. Use code CHAD20. You're going to save 20%. Plus, you can get free shipping on all orders over $50. That's code CHAD20. Go to boomernaturals.com. Boomernaturals.com. Code CHAD20. Take your family's health into your own hands and order your 30-day mask now at boomernaturals.com. Boomernaturals.com. Use the promo code CHAD20. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
No need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Fui to fearless leader. Fui. Fui, fui, and double fui.
What is your language? This is a family show, remember?
Fui to families too.
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
They said tomorrow's getting harder. Make no mistakes. Lucky ain't even lucky. Gotta make your own breaks. It's my life. It's now or never.
This is for Rise Up New York. It's Bon Jovi.
I'm gonna live. I am alive.
That is awful. I have never liked Bon Jovi. I have never liked him. Are you a Bon Jovi fan? Like, you're a music dude. Like, are you a Bon Jovi fan?
You know, I'm not a huge fan, but I like a couple of his songs.
I mean, I can appreciate the talent. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the talent. I got zero problems with any of that. But I just never have, like, there's just nothing that he does that I thought, well, I like that. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. He's not Karen Carpenter, I'll tell you that. Just letting you guys know that. I watched a interesting documentary over the weekends, one of those docudrama on Reels, where it's like real stuff, and then they're interviewing people that were there, and then at the same time they intersperse like acting with it. It was interesting about like, man, what a mess. And what an absolute mess that was. Just a disaster. Like I said, she's Bon Jovi. Not really like, definitely not Carpenter. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. So, SCOTUS, obviously going on. Hearing tax stuff from Trump and a bunch of other stuff. You've got Fauci testifying. It's just a lot of, like the Fauci thing. At this point in time, I look around and I ask myself, is this what we need now? Like, if you want to have real conversations when this is all over, I've got zero problems. I think we'll always investigate. Could we have done it better? The problem is we don't investigate. Could we have done it better? Is there something we missed? How should we have done this? We come at investigations, or they're no longer investigations or committee meetings. They're true gotcha moments. Could we have gotcha? Should we have gotcha? Can we gotcha? And in a time of crisis, I don't think this helps. I mean, we're already tribal enough. I mean, we're tribal over the damn virus. There's a virus out there that is nasty. It is ugly. And it's weird because you do have a group of people, I think, on the right is, it's nothing. And it's not nothing. But you also have a group of people on the left that, like, this thing is essentially the plague. And both sides want to be right. It's nuts. It is. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I know I'm going to get Bon Jovi hate. How do you not like Bon Jovi? I just don't. I don't. I know it's weird, but that's just me. Never been a Bon Jovi fan. I think it's New Jersey because I don't really like Bruce Springsteen. Oh, here comes the hate now. Chad Benson Show.
You're listening to the best of Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show.